Terraria 2 should not feel like Terraria. I know I've seen some people, one of the criticisms or the negatives they say about a Terraria 2 is usually something along the lines of it will not feel like Terraria, or there's not as strong of a modding community for Terraria 2, and Terraria, the modders might not move over from them, and there's other actual legitimate ones, but for the most part it usually revolves around the feel. It won't feel like it, and I'm telling you, it does not need to feel like Terraria. We have Terraria. The whole point of Terraria 2 is to get rid of some of the limitations that Terraria has, and hopefully see something Terraria in soul, but more. Something more. Something that maybe we can't even conceive right now. Or maybe it's something that is conceivable that we can actually look at and be like, yeah, that could be a benefit of having Terraria 2. And I'm sure you heard a lot of the positives of having a Terraria 2. And, such as, well, if they make a Terraria 2, they're able to get rid of, or they're able to expand upon the world gen. Make maps larger. They are able to make the biomes more appealing, more interesting. I mean, they've done a good job with Terraria over the years. But the thing is, there are some limiting factors. Terraria, your ocean biomes don't really feel like oceans. I'm just going to say it. It's like a beach. It's the beach biome. It doesn't really feel oceanic. It doesn't even feel like a lake. And some of the lake biomes in the main part of Terraria don't really feel like lakes either. They feel like small ponds. Or decent sized ponds. Maybe this is just me. I mean, I'll admit I might be a little biased. I live near the Great Lakes. So yeah, when I think of lake, I think of that. I mean, that might be a little overboard, but still, that's what I think of when I see the lakes. I think of the 5 Great Lakes: Lake Superior, Lake Erie, Lake Michigan. What was the other ones? There's 2 other ones. I don't really care about the other ones, but those are the ones that I remember off the top of my head. And yeah, those are the lakes I think of. And I like the biomes to be more interesting. Another aspect that makes it a little bit annoying is when you go to the jungle biome and you find the jungle biome, you immediately know where several features are. Obviously, you're going to know that there's a jungle temple below your feet somewhere. That makes sense because it's a jungle temple. What I don't like knowing is where the freaking dungeon is right as soon as I find out, oh yeah, jungle temple's here. Gotta go the other side of the world now if I want to find the dungeon. Don't really like that. It kind of reduces the amount of exploration that you got to do, and kind of removes a little bit from that. And I don't really care for that. On top of that, I'm just thinking, well, let's think if what type of biomes and stuff we could have in Terraria 2. And there's a lot. You can focus a lot more on the space biome. You could make the snow biome more appealing, more interesting. You could make you can have both of the corruptions on there. Crimson and the corruption. That could be cool. I mean, you could theoretically, I think, do it with mods or, certain... There are ways I think you can do it, but, I want it more natural, from the natural generation of the world. So, yeah, that's what I think about. Well, there was another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on. When you talk about how Terraria should be. And I'm like, it doesn't necessarily need to be a remaster or remake. And it does not necessarily need to have as much, well, actually, it shouldn't have as much content as Terraria on release. People are like, one of the negatives of Terraria 2 is that I completely disagree with. I think this is not an actual talking point that should even be like really considered as a negative. And that is Terraria 2 will not have as much content as Terraria 1. It's like, that's no shit. Think about this for a sec. How long has Terraria been worked on? Tell you, it started about 14, 15 years ago. Or I should say, it released about 14, 15 years ago. It's actually been working on longer than that. But it's been developed for 14 to 15 years. I think 15-year mark might be in 2026. So, yeah. Honestly, yeah, is it any wonder why it won't have that? That's not the point. It doesn't need to have as much content. It can be a new beginning, a new game, taking it further. You know, like for example, you have Oblivion and Morrowind for the Elder Scrolls series that have a pretty good modding support for them. Look at some of the stuff that's coming out from them. You know, it's kind of crazy to think about. And then they got Skyrim. And because Skyrim offered so much more freedom when it comes to certain aspects of it, especially in the modding side of things, the amount of mods and stuff coming out of Skyrim is insane. And that's kind of what I hope would happen with a Terraria 2. Terraria 2, I think with, larger biomes, more space for the developers of mods to work with, I think you could have an even better modding community than Terraria. Like more mods, more variety, less restrictions, less problems, more compatibility. Obviously, it depends on the mod, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. And that's the kind of aspect I'm looking at it from there as well. So when you think, like, from the modding side of things, this is one of the things I always like to consider in games is I'm a big advocate for mods and the modding community. I say one of the smartest things developers for their games can do is make a game as easily as moddable as possible for your games. That way, you can at the very least have them potentially create new content for the fans of your game, and your game could end up being a game that just sells for years down the line. That's one of the reasons why Skyrim is so popular today, even after like no meaningful updates from the developers at Bethesda for many, many years. It's because the modding community is keeping that game alive and active. And I think Terraria 2 would, if, obviously the developers want to have to do it, and it shouldn't be like, just half-heartedly put out there because people are asking for it. If they actually are interested in doing that, I think it would be, for them to just think of how they can make Terraria 2 feel like Terraria in soul, but not trying to bog it down because they want it to feel exactly like Terraria with its limitations. Because we already have Terraria. We don't need Terraria 2 to just be Terraria 1. That would probably be the worst thing they could do to their game. So, yeah. I'm a big advocate for Terraria 2 happening. I think there's a lot of ways they can make Terraria 2 work. But them going down the route to try and make it feel as clunky as possible. I mean, heck, they could even do something that Terraria 2 doesn't have. An example of this is, like if they wanted to push like a new mechanic for Terraria 2 to separate more from Terraria, they could make it so there's this game called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It's made by the developers who made a lot of the Castlevania, Metroidvania games, such as, Area of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, obviously would be a bigger one. But some of those games have a special ability. When you're fighting the monsters, each monster has like a certain special attack or a certain attack that kind of makes it, separate from all the other enemies. And if you beat it, there's a chance it will drop a shard, a soul, or something that would get absorbed by your character, and then you could equip it. Equip that ability, and you have like one for like different types of abilities. And that added to, the various different aspects. That one probably, like, maybe might not make sense for Terraria based on how like the weapons work and whatnot, but it's a thought that they could just do something like that, maybe not specifically that, like that can make their it stand out more. Now that's something that I personally don't think would fit very well with Terraria, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, there's plenty of different ways you can tackle it, and you just got to think out like what would make the most sense for Terraria. And I'm not going to be a person who's going to be, asking for Terraria 2 every, 5 seconds. I know there are the people that do that. I'm just of the mindset, if it happens, it happens. And that pretty much goes with me for like every single game of every single franchise that I like. And that's the thing. I just don't like getting my hopes up for a new game. There are several games that I really want, either a remaster or a remake or a new entry into the series, like Golden Sun. I want Golden Sun 1 and 2 to get a modern remaster. I don't see it happening. Legend of Legaia 2, Legend of Dragoon are another like 3 games that I would like to see it. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I'm not going to keep asking for it and keep, drumming up hype for it. I'm just waiting and see if it happens. And if it happens, great. And that's the way I'm going to approach Terraria 2. So that, like, for example, if Terraria 2 doesn't happen till like 2032, I'm going to be like, okay, great. It's coming out in 2032. And the 2032 me can be excited. So, yeah, but I seriously don't think Terraria 2 should be made with the notion that it should feel like Terraria down to a T. You can have the Terraria soul of it, but not feeling like the previous game. You can improve upon it, take inspirations from other games, or just come up with whole new different systems that still feel like Terraria, but is not like the original game. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well. But yeah. Anywho, that's it. See ya.